Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to my review of Kichikuou Rance, the final installation of the old Rance timeline. If you're new here, welcome. My name's Aiden. We do a lot of stuff on the channel, but one of our main things is Rance Saturday, or Sunday, not Saturday. Um, and we've been playing through the old Rance timeline all the way from the first two games digests, but we have full playthroughs of 3, 4, 4.1, 4.2, and we have finally finished our playthrough of the I guess 5, I guess. And it was pretty awesome. This game was extremely hyped up by people. I've heard the fact that this kind of saved Alisaw from going bankrupt. People compare this to a Morrowind from a Bethesda, that sort of similar impact. And it's pretty great, honestly. Like, in terms of like a game, just compared to the older titles, it's definitely like the best game for sure. Like the amount of depth and just the general shift to like I don't know what you would call it, like world conquer strategy type game is pretty awesome. Yeah, definitely in terms of gameplay, it's my favorite by far. The first Rance game I've ever played was Sengoku, and people compared it to that, and you can definitely see this was like, I mean, it's very comparable in terms of combat, and just the scope of the story, right? You go from like struggling against 3 Dark Lords to like all of them, plus like every other country in the world. Um, it's crazy in a great way. I think content wise too, like the other games, I'm sure you can do other playthroughs of them too, but it's obviously, they're RPGs. It's more linear than even other JRPGs, just because there's not a lot you can customize about your playstyle. Obviously, you can bring different party members in 3 and 4. You can change your playstyle through that, I guess. But it's not like you can really change much with skills and stuff, just because for the majority of the time it was, well, for 3 it was randomized fighting, and 4, while you could choose it, it's not like you had like choices in what skills you get or whatever. So like just this like big jump in playability. And like I said, this is the type of game where, like, sure, you can play it once and be satisfied, but you can also play it like a bunch of different times. Like, even throughout the playthrough, I'm like, okay, whenever I play this again, I want to do this, I want to do that. I have some new strategies in the think tank for it. And there's a ton of content I missed, ton of side stories, side quests, characters I didn't unlock, characters I killed. I think there's different endings too. Like, there's just so much you can play through, and just having this like high level of replayability is definitely a turn on. It sounds kind of weird, but like it's good game design in my opinion. And again, story wise, it's just like this epic story. Like, for me, before, Rance 3 was like pretty epic compared, but this one is just insane. I feel like maybe the only down point of the story is that just because the scope is so big, you don't really focus on much characters besides Rance himself. Obviously, you get a little bit of everyone else, and there's some great characters. I loved following their stories. Like just some random one, Asuka, your tiny first mage. Her side story with Mill and shit was hilarious. I love that shit. But you don't get a lot of Syl in the game, sadly, and Syl's my favorite character. So that if I had to give a downside to the impressive scope of the story, it's the fact that you can't focus on some of my favorites. Even though I've made like some new favorites, it's just something you usually have to sacrifice for such a large scale thing. I think difficulty wise, this was pretty difficult. If you haven't seen my playthroughs, I'm the type of guy that, like, okay, first up, we'll just like check a walkthrough, just take the easier way out, just because, again, Since we're recording this game and not just playing it myself, it obviously takes longer to play because I'm commentating on stuff, so I tend not to want to be hard stuck on something forever. I think we're pretty clean for a lot of the game. We definitely did look up some stuff too. Some stuff in the Dark Lord area of the level, because that's like the big difficulty spike, I think. But I think generally, like, you know, the first, you know, taking back the free city, the tutorial, pretty easy, pretty standard. Again, different ways to do it, but the Hellman jump, it was like pretty hard. The Zeth jump was hard also. It was an easier jump, but I felt like the battles, until you like figured out just, you know, just wall up at the front, were pretty hard. And then the Dark Lords are pretty insane. You know, some were gimmicky, but some were like Red Eye was like ridiculous. That was probably not the strongest Dark Lord, but probably the hardest enemy, I feel, just because of how stacked his army was. But yeah, I mean, story-wise, great. You know, a little wide, a little hard to focus and stuff, but generally great. Good antics. Gameplay, again, best of the series. Better than Sengoku. It's so hard to tell because I haven't played Sengoku in like 5 years. Well, maybe not 5 years, but like 3-4 years. And I assume in Sengoku they probably like, I mean, they took the core system and maybe made it better, but this is pretty damn fun. It's pretty great. Obviously there's some UI issues, but it's just the age. You know, you can't really do much about that unless they remake it. Comedy, you know, Rance comedy is usually always on point. Couple raunchy stuff that maybe not as on point, but usually pretty good. H scenes, you know, you have an abundance and you sacrifice not having like more than one CG of a character usually. Unlike in the others where the general pool is smaller. But yeah, you know, it's fine. I enjoyed it. Yeah, since we reformed our playthrough style because of the YouTube community strike stuff, you guys don't even get to see the H scenes, but you know, I read them all. I did my due diligence. Some were bangers, some were whatever. And then we didn't even see them all. But yeah. Art style I thought was pretty good. Like I thought, like when I first booted up and I saw Rance with that poofy hair, I was like, eh. But you know, I got used to it. I think it is pretty good. Sill's looking good. I mean, I guess it's kind of hard to list off the characters. A lot of them kind of remain the same. It's definitely like I definitely do prefer like the newer style from what I saw, at least from Sengoku. But it looks good. It does look good. Soundtrack, I mean, there's definitely some banger soundtrack. I'm playing the Kichikuou soundtrack right now. Wait, let me just like put up the best song. Like, let's be honest. I don't know what you guys think is the best song, but this isn't. I didn't change the song, by the way. This isn't my choice. I'm trying to look on it on the playthrough. The playlist. Here we go. Come on. The Cabeless's Army song was actually a bop. It was definitely my favorite. Yeah. I'm trying to think of like things to say. Again, it's mostly positive, some story stuff. You know, it's hard to focus on stuff. The UI. But again, difficulty, I think the jumps are pretty good. Though if you don't like rely on a walkthrough at all, you might get hard stuck on some stuff. Music's pretty good. No Sill theme. Well, actually there might have been a Sill theme, but I didn't remember it, so again, gameplay easily the best. Story, I would say even with the lack of Sill, it's probably still the best, just from how like awesome the size is, how this feels like an epic. I mean, Rance 3 feels like an epic, but I guess with this game, this is like an epic, and Rance 3 is just like a really cool story. It's just in scope of stuff. But I'm excited for like the future too, because from what I've heard, like the Nets, because they take the new timeline and they take Kichikuou and they kind of like extract the story points. Like obviously Sengoku's about like the stuff in Japan, right? So they extract these like story points they had in Kichikuou and expand on it, because while like big in size, the pacing is pretty fast in Kichikuou. So it kind of takes like my critique of it being so large in scale that they can't develop everything or as much as I want to, and spread it across like 5 more games. So but yeah, that's exciting. I don't really have much more to say to that. It's mainly all praise. I think it's a great game. I would definitely recommend it. It's free, by the way. All old timeline Rance titles are free, if you didn't know. So if you ever feel guilty about downloading them, don't. it's awesome that they actually just gave it for free. But before we like end stuff, obviously I give this a big stamp of approval. I would play it. I mean, you could always watch the playthrough. It would help me a lot, and see my scuffed ass gameplay and how bad I am at games in general. But I would definitely recommend you trying it out yourself, just because again, there's so many styles of play, there's so many strategies, lines you can take, side quests you can do. Kind of. I mean, we missed stuff. I don't think we missed too much, but like there's definitely at least like in my mind, like maybe like 3 playthroughs you have to do to hit everything. Maybe you can do it in 2, but there's just like, I think there's more than 2 endings, so lots of replayability. But just some quick notes before we finish this off. Also, sub if you haven't subbed. I mean, we got the Rance on Sundays. You don't really see a lot of Rance tubers, you know, so I'm a good source of some Rance action if you're into that. But yeah, so the next video, next Sunday, we're going to put up a poll on what we're going to do next. The 3 options are, we start the new timeline from Rance 01 and then just work our way up there. It's a little tedious since we kind of know the gist of the early stories, but apparently they do make some changes. And obviously, I technically haven't played 1 and 2 just because I read their digest, just because they're really old. But that's an option. The other option is just go to Rance 5D. We miss some of the changes, but we get a brand new story. And that's kind of exciting in its own right. And the third option is continue Evanito. We started an Evanito playthrough. It kind of got lost in the sauce a bit just because of, it's a bonus series, timing stuff. I plan to play it eventually, but having it consistently put out on Sundays would definitely help help me complete it. So those are the 3 options. The official video will come out Sunday. You'll have a week to vote on them, and I'll close it. Then we'll just do whatever. And after that, tier list. We'll do characters from. My plan is to do characters from the old timeline. The only tier list I could find was like all characters, I think, but we can just like throw away the characters we don't know from the new timeline. But yeah, that should be fun. And yeah, some good Rance stuff. But the Kichikuou Rance journey was super fun. Again, I did mention, probably should have said this before, I do plan on doing another playthrough. We call it Campaign Plus. In a bit, definitely when we at least start the next Rance game. It'll definitely be a side thing that I'll work on the side, and that should be fun too. Hitting stuff we haven't hit, getting new stuff. I won't kill Syl. That's the only thing. I will never kill Syl, because that's just blasphemy. But we will try to get other characters, do other side quests we missed, etc., etc. So it should be fun. But yeah, thank you for watching this review. If you liked, give it a like. And if you haven't subbed, please sub. Consider it. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you in another Sunday with some more Kichikuou Rance. Thanks for following me on the journey. If you followed from the start or just from anywhere, to this point, we have officially completed the old timeline. Feels good, man.